I kind of always have had adoption on my heart. Actually, recently that I grew up knowing had told me that they remembered me saying that even as a young child I wanted to adopt. I have always wanted to have biological children as well. So I distinctly remember when I was actually pregnant with our second child, feeling a strong sense of wanting to proceed with the adoption process, but I hadn't spoken to Jeff about it yet, and so we usually unified in all our decisions thus far in our marriage, so that was kind of the litmus test of sorts. So I asked Jeff what his views on adoption would be.
And for me, it was kind of taking it with a grain of salt, because Becca has a lot of ideas, and so I kind of
99% of them are good.
Most of the ideas are phenomenal, but every once in a while they're just a little bit over the top. So I didn't really know, is this just kind of that next thing she's thinking about? But I certainly, we talked about praying about it, and as I thought about it, it hadn't been something that was on my heart prior to that. So it was pretty cool to see how God worked through that, and we both just began praying about it, and over time, when it would come up in conversation again, kind of realizing that she was really serious about it, and we could kind of feel God moving, and we were certainly unified through the process.
I got adopted when I was 9 years old, with my two younger siblings, Heather and David. We went into foster care, I believe, when I was 6 or 7 years old, and we actually got separated. So I was with my older sister, Tanya. We got put in one house, and in the other house it was Heather and David, because that's how they do it. They usually pick the younger ones together and the older ones together. And so we got separated, and then we actually tried to stay connected, and we had like monthly meetings with each other so that we could see each other, since we're related and we always wanted to be together. The house that they were staying at, it fell through. So they actually met the Juboors, which I'm currently with, and they're my family. And how they met them was that David and Heaven actually went to the same preschool. So Heather and David stayed with them, and I just visited for the weekends. And I actually did not know that they were looking at adopting us. It was just kind of, oh, I'm staying with them for the weekend kind of thing. So, and then we transferred me to staying with them permanently. And then we realized that we wanted to get adopted with them. And it was actually cool for me because I was 9 years old, so I kind of knew what was going on. Heather and David didn't. So I actually sat down with my parents, and they actually talked it through with me. They were just like, this is your decision. This is your decision. You get to choose whether or not you want to be adopted, kind of thing. And it was also really cool because I got to change my last name. So that was also another decision for me. So I was like, oh, I'm 9 years old. I get to choose these kind of things. I felt kind of big and responsible. But
so as we really got into the classes and started, having it become more real, like this is going to happen soon, one of the fears I think that we had was just the impact it would have on our biological children, and the uncertainty. We went through the foster to adopt route, and there's different avenues that people can take. So it wasn't like we knew we were getting an infant. There was a lot of uncertainty. It could be an infant, it could be a 1-year-old, it could be a 5-year-old. Is it going to be twins? And we just didn't know a lot of that, and just kind of unsure of what impact that would have on our kids. So that was a big part of what we prayed through, and I know that's something that was, I think, on Becca's heart as well.
Yes, I definitely wanted to go into it open-handed and ready to go whatever route God wanted, but I did kind of do the prayer with a little bit of a but please don't make us give this baby back, because I just know my heart and how I get attached quickly. So there is that fear of, will we have to, go through the heartache of having to give back this child. But also knowing that, God had blessed us with stability and a good marriage. You know, not a perfect marriage, obviously. We're not perfect parents, but we know we have been given so much. And as Jeff was saying, we did know that there was the need right here, right in our backyard, actually. And we wanted to make sure that we were open to the route that he wanted us to go.
So when I was younger, I actually had a learning disability, and my mom and my father both just focused on me when it came to that. And when I'd come home from school, they'd help me with reading and math, and they wouldn't just nudge it off. They'd actually focus and try to help me through it. And my mom actually got me a computer game that helped me with reading, which was kind of funny. But so I'd have to sit down at the computer for like a half an hour, and you'd read through it, and you'd like write something, and then there was a book, and you had to read to your parents, and then you had to write something as like a reflecting on that. So that was like one thing that really showed me the love that they had for me, because it wasn't just, oh well, they're just ignoring the fact that I had something. They were actually loving me and showing the unconditional love. So when I was 9 in court, when we got adopted, they told us that we wouldn't have any contact with our biological family or parents until we turned the age of 18. And both of my parents were very supportive of it when I turned 9, that like I talked to them about it and I just had questions, but then until now and since then, they've been really supportive of my questions and tried helping me with all of my questions. And even though it's probably really hard for them, they do see why I want to meet them, and my father actually wants to go with me when I meet them. So I think it's just one thing I really appreciate about them, is that they're very supportive no matter what I do.
I think for us, on like kind of on a practical level with parenting, Matthew's 3.5 years old when he moved in with us. So it was, 3.5 years of kind of our expectations and just way that our household worked that was new to him, and he was new to us. And so, it wasn't exactly the same as some of the foundational things that we had with Andrew and Julia. So I think there was, some adjustments and us learning more about him and him learning more about us. And it's really been cool to see, we talk about it often now, to see where God has taken us. And in 3.5 years, actually 4.5 years that he's been with us. And
we were fortunate that Matthew had a foundation of faith. God had intentionally placed him in another loving Christian foster family prior to him coming to us. So we count that as a huge blessing as well.
Yeah, and just kind of, we were reflecting earlier just on, with him coming into our family and just not knowing what his life would have been like, had he not come into our family. But as Becca said, God chose us and he chose him, and it's just amazing to see, what he's doing through that. And along those lines, for us, just the support that we've had from friends and family along the journey has just been incredible. And he's just been accepted so much, and he's just part of our family. And whether that's grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, he's part of our family. So I think that's just one of the biggest blessings as we kind of look at just the journey that we've been on.
So one neat thing that God's taught me through adoption and through my story, he's actually led me to, well, as of right now, I'd like to adopt kids when I get older and have the chance to. And also I have a passion for like being with kids and just loving on them. So I'd like to go into school for teaching or something to do with kids. And like I'm really blessed that God has laid that passion on my heart, because I think it's just one thing that he showed me his love. So I'd like to pour love to other people.
I think kind of to sum things up for us, the most important things that that have been there for us and rock solid for us have been, number one, God, and us being unified before God and just praying through the entire process. And then just the support that we've had from other people who have walked a similar journey.
Yeah, including the church from the start, celebrating with us, encouraging us. We actually sat down with the Goldens prior and had some very real conversations, and we're more than happy to do that and openly share our journey. Obviously, we could have spoken for hours and hours about the ups and downs, and you know, so a lot of people have found have said, "Oh, I kind of always wanted to adopt," and it isn't for every single family, but it is for a lot more. You don't have to be as equipped as you think you need to be, because with anything else, when you're in that place of humility and availability, God will use you and your resources. And I mean, to obviously bringing a child into the world is an amazing picture of God's just perfection and grace, and just it's when we look at Matthew and think how he brought us into his family. We always say it's his story, in his story, and we celebrate it because God is so good and how he intricately designed his birth parents to be who they were, and us as his forever family to be who we are.